And with that, we say hello and welcome to CBS Sports HQ, delivered by Papa John's. New grilled buffalo chicken papadilla, just $6. I am Hakeem Dermish. Alabama dominates Auburn in the 85th meeting of the Iron Bowl. Here's how it went down in Tuscaloosa. The 85th edition of the Iron Bowl. A game seen on CBS, the SEC on CBS Game of the Week. Steve Sarkisian filling in as active Bama head coach. Nick Saban not coaching this game, tested positive for COVID-19. First game he's missed since 1973. Bo Nix and Auburn won last year's Iron Bowl. Mac Jones made his first career SEC start in that game, threw 2 pick sixes. He also threw 4 touchdowns in that game. Here, his first touchdown of the game, off to a hot start. Loads up deep to Devontae Smith. Someone might want to play defense on him. 66-yard touchdown, tied in front 7-0. As Devontae Smith collects his 34th touchdown reception, extending the SEC record. Then, next Alabama drive. Jones to John Mechie III. 14-0 Alabama. Auburn down 21-3 late second quarter. Less than a minute to play here. Bo Nix deep for Seth Williams. Touchdown tie. Oh, he dropped it. He makes that catch 9 out of 10 times. I mean, she's sure-handed. Would have been a 58-yard touchdown. Gotta have that. Gotta have that. Yep. 4 plays later, 3rd and 10, Nix gets picked off by Malachi Moore, and Alabama takes a 21-3 lead into halftime. Alabama's defense has not allowed a touchdown in 11 straight quarters. The freshman, Malachi Moore, 3rd pick of the season. Tide kept rolling in the 3rd quarter. Up 21-6. Mack hit as he throws, connects with Smith. 58 yards. So he's got a 66-yarder and a 58-yard touchdown pass. Alabama up 28-6. Jones ties a career-high 4th passing touchdown. First game with 4 passing touchdowns came in 2019 in the Iron Bowl. And he was a whole lot better in this one than he was last year. You know who was just as good? Najee Harris. 17th rushing touchdown of the season, leads the nation. This offense is so dynamic. Early 4th, it's 35-6 Alabama. Mack to Mechie, third for the 24-yard touchdown, 2nd of the game for him. Jones with a career-high 5 touchdown passes. It's incredible to see this kid's development. He goes from being the backup to Tua Tagovailoa, now as a contender to win the Heisman Trophy. 42-13 is the final. Alabama covers the 25. Game goes under the total of 65 in Tuscaloosa. Now, if Texas A&M loses Saturday to LSU, then Alabama clinches the SEC West and a spot in the SEC championship game. Big story coming in was that Nick Saban did not coach in this game due to a positive COVID-19 test. After the game, he spoke with Jamie Erdahl on the phone.
I know you told us yesterday that not being around your players had an empty feeling. So how did today play out for you emotionally watching this game from home?
That was difficult, but I'm really happy with the result, I can tell you that. So I thought the players played really well. They played hard in the game, made a lot of big plays on offense. Defense stepped up and did a nice job. We didn't finish exactly like we'd like, but I'm really, really proud of our team and proud of our players. And regardless of what I felt like emotionally, this is a great win for our fans, a great win for us at Alabama. So this is really special.
I know you had a lot of challenging firsts this week, and this will be the first time you have to address a team from afar in the locker room. What do you say to your group after a win like this?
Oh, I say the same thing I'd say to them any other time. It's a great win. It's always great to win this game. The Iron Bowl is something special to the people in the state of Alabama. So it's something special to us as a team. I'm really proud of our team. So this is a great win for us, and I'm absolutely going to tell them that. There's no question about it. And we'll sing the fight song, which is what we always do when we win.
I know there was some comments about how Mac Jones could be a game-managing quarterback, but how masterful of a performance did he put together for you today?
I thought Matt played really, really well. I'm sure that when we look at the film, everybody's going to see some things they could have done better, and that's what we want to focus on moving forward, is what we have to do to improve. But he certainly made the plays he needed to make today, and Smitty played great, Najee played great. So a lot of positives out there for us today.
Coach, we wish you well with your health moving forward. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thanks. I appreciate you.
Speaking of Mac Jones, third player in Alabama history to throw 5 passing touchdowns in a game, joining Tua Tagovailoa and Gary Hollingsworth. And if you're wondering if Mac Jones has NFL talent, well, he does. CBS Sports NFL draft expert Ryan Wilson has Mac Jones going in the first round, 12th overall to the New England Patriots. All right, back out to Tuscaloosa. Welcome in lead sideline reporter for the SEC on CBS, Jamie Erdahl. Jamie, we heard your phone call with Nick Saban. What did you take away from that phone call?
What a strangely emotional day for that man. And what I've learned to appreciate about Nick Saban is he is an attention to detail kind of head coach. He really doesn't leave any stone unturned, and that goes all the way down to the grad assistants on his staff. But today was a day that you really couldn't prepare for him to be away from a team for the first time in 47 years in his coaching tenure. So it had to be odd for him. He was able to address the team 90 minutes before the game, but after that, he had to trust the script that he has put in place with his staff and his players, and clearly the bricks that he laid took care of business today.
What, if anything, did you notice that was different with Steve Sarkisian calling the shots?
You know, I think what I was most surprised by was how it wasn't different at all for him. In the first 4 or 5 offensive drives, he called plays as he normally would be. For him, the biggest difference was they had an available headset because Nick Saban wasn't here. So they elevated one of Steve Sarkisian's grad assistants up in the booth to have a headset so he could talk to him. And we believe that that was a young man that Coach Sarkisian was talking to a lot during warm-ups and pregame. So that conversation was probably a lot more increased than what Sark is used to. But after that point, Sark was business as usual. When the defense was on the field, he was addressing the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. He really wasn't dealing with Pete Golding a whole lot. Now, granted, this game didn't warrant a ton of head coaching decisions, down to the final little moment and minutia of the game. But from what I could see, it was, a regular old day for Sark.
Yeah, regular old day for the offense as well, led by Mac Jones, who pumps in a career-high 5 touchdowns, which is incredible. How would you describe Mac's ascension from backup to Tua to now a Heisman Trophy contender?
Hakeem, I love what you said about how Mac Jones has become an NFL talent. I think there's one team in the NFL that would take him tomorrow, and it sounds like it's the Denver Broncos. Heck with the Patriots and taking him 12th overall in the first round. But yeah, Mac Jones, what a remarkable story for him 365 days ago to really be smacked in the face in terms of what the SEC means. He was upended by the true freshman quarterback Bo Nix last year, but he comes home and he plays as we've seen him all season. How he's been able to improve each time that we've been able to have him on CBS has been remarkable. Now, he has an incredible cast of talent around him offensively, and Gary Danielson couldn't applaud the offensive line more for this Alabama team. So it truly is a perfect package so far for Mac Jones, but he has elevated his game as his teammates have as well.
11-1 as a starter. His only loss was in the 2019 Iron Bowl, and he bounces back, as does Alabama, in the 85th meeting of the Iron Bowl. Jamie, you know this Alabama squad very well. What more did you learn about the Tide on this day?
What I learned was I really am having a hard time seeing who could beat them at this point if they continue to play that way. I was kind of itching to ask Nick Saban after the game if that was a perfect performance. I know that would be kind of putting myself in a corner with him because he will never admit something like that, because even he said in that interview that he turned the tape on and everyone's going to want to find something that they can improve. But to me, in all phases of the game today, they just looked like a team that was unfazed, that really you are going to have to play perfectly as an opponent if you're going to take them down. It will be very interesting to see over the next few weeks how Florida continues their ascension and what kind of clash we potentially could have in the SEC championship in Atlanta in a couple weeks.
Alabama has scored 35 or more points in an eye-popping FBS record, 21 straight games. Wow, that is impressive. Jamie Erdahl with the latest as she breaks it down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Jamie, thanks for the time.
Thanks, guys.
And check this out. This is pretty incredible. In the last 5 meetings, it's the home team that has come out victorious as Alabama comes out on top in Tuscaloosa on this day. Auburn hasn't won in Tuscaloosa since 2010, and they weren't going to win on this day with the kind of performance they had. Alabama, they look and they're playing at another level. All right, let's continue the analysis here. The SEC on CBS post-game show delivered by Papa John's. Welcome in our team of experts, two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden, CBS Sports HQ college football analyst Barrett Sallee, and Chip Patterson. And this was an absolute domination from start to finish for Alabama. I feel like we've been saying that all season long. Barrett, when you look at this game, what's the first thing that jumps out to you? Mac Jones, 5 touchdowns, or the defense doing what it did this afternoon?
It's the defense, because remember the first 3 games of the season, Alabama's defense was a liability, especially after that game against Ole Miss. And you look at what they've been able to do lately, it's just been flat-out domination. And against Auburn today, man, they had Bo Nix running for his life. The happy feet that Bo Nix had earlier this year that got him into trouble again tonight. And so that defensive front, the way they were able to get pressure, they were able to get pressure with 4 consistently against Auburn. And if that continues to happen, there's just no chance that a team can move the football consistently if they've got all those defensive backs dropping back into coverage. So the biggest thing, look, the offense is amazing. We all know that. But the defense has been getting better and better throughout the course of the season, and it was playing at its best against Auburn tonight.
They are so incredibly deep right now, and there are freshmen that are out there. Malachi Moore coming up with yet another interception. We've seen so many young players within this Alabama defense really rise to the occasion, and it's funny because we lean on it a little bit. We make jokes like, oh, somebody's hurt, just going to send in another 4-star, just going to send in another 5-star. But there are just dudes all over the field for this Alabama defense, and it really is a matter of leadership. And I think some of that is going to be, what we see on the field, where last year, you were missing Dylan Moses, the quarterback of the defense, the middle linebacker. Now we've got another year with Pete Golding. You've got some of those veteran players, Patrick Surtain, another big key veteran player for this Alabama defense. And that combined with Malachi Moore and some of the youth movement, they're incredibly deep. They are competitive even among themselves for playing time, for sacks, for interceptions. I mean, that kind of hunger is what leads to excellence. It's really some of the best Alabama defense that we've seen probably in 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, I am all too used to Mac Jones lighting up the stat sheet and just having something ridiculous. Some of that is Mac Jones being incredible and Alabama having some of the best wide receivers in the entire country. But, man, this defense was really good today, and that's definitely the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I love seeing quality defensive play on any field, right? But I think looking at Alabama and their chances of being able to get to the SEC championship game and then get into the college playoffs, their defense will need to continue to play this way. I'm starting to understand what their offense is. Mac Jones is a very, very consistent guy. The entire offense, they're consistent with playmakers up and down that roster. But defensively, since the Ole Miss ball game, they have really paid more attention to detail. They're tackling well. They're flowing to the football well. They're playing with the right gap integrity. And because of that, they're not allowing big plays that we saw Mississippi be able to convert against them. And then the most unique and I think improvement that I've seen from the defense guys, not the guys in the secondary, not the guys at the linebacker unit, it's the front. It's the first level guys. Today, they did something I didn't think they would be able to do, which was harass Bo Nix, who is a mobile quarterback. They were able to bring him to the ground 3 times, and outside of that, they put relentless pressure on Bo Nix. If they can continue to put pressure on any opposing quarterback that they will face, the second level and third level guys will have success, and that's what we saw today. They forced turnovers, 2 interceptions. They sacked them 3 times. I think they had 2 sacks in the first quarter, so they started on the good foot against Auburn offense today. If they can continue to do that with the front, man, look out. This will be a very, very difficult team for any opposing team to face going down the road.
Yeah, Alabama's defense snapped its streak of 12 straight quarters of not allowing a touchdown when Bo Nix ran in a score in the 4th quarter. When you talk about Mac Jones, I think last year you looked at me and go, okay, this guy's a game manager. I don't know how impressive he is. He struggled in the Iron Bowl, although he threw 4 touchdowns but threw 2 pick sixes as well. Barrett, I'm curious here, and I'm kind of playing devil's advocate. Is Mac Jones a product of this system, or is he really an elite quarterback?
Not to dodge the question, Hakeem, but he's both. The system is what it is, whether it's Tua, whether it's whoever back there. The system now is basically the same as it was when Tua was there. So, that's going to help him, obviously, especially when you've got wide receivers everywhere, including Billingsley, who just comes out of nowhere to become a factor. But that shouldn't take away from what Mac Jones is, and that's an elite passer. So what he has done is just taken the system and run with it the same way Tua did. So if you put him in another system, he wouldn't have the numbers because he wouldn't have the weapons probably, but he'd still have the same kind of success because he's just that good as a quarterback.
Mac Jones is an elite quarterback. He is not a system quarterback. He is elite. And I do believe that given circumstances with different teammates, different coaching, I think he would find ways to be really successful. And it's because of some of the moxie, some of the confidence that we hear his own teammates talk about. I mean, the name the Joker came from just how maniacal he can be. I just think Mac Jones has some swagger and some real alpha dog to his personality that allows him to be able to take his natural God-given talents, but then also in the moment, in competition on Saturday, rise to the occasion time and time again. He doesn't seem fazed by it. We see other quarterbacks come along that might have more of the perfect prototype in terms of physical attributes, but when they get in there on Saturdays, or maybe when they get in there on Sundays, they get exposed because they don't have the mental side of it. Mac Jones is a winner. He is fearless. He has confidence. And so I think that is what truly makes him elite. It is the mental side of the game and the way he carries himself and competes. That is what makes him one of the best quarterbacks in college football.
When I watch Mac Jones play, I've been thinking about this NFL comp for quite some time, but he reminds me a lot of Carson Palmer. He has a unique arm talent. And when you just watch him in his uniform, you might not be blown away with how he looks. But when you turn the game film on, instantly you see the unique arm talent. He might not be as special as a talent like Tua Tagovailoa, but one thing that he has that Tua did not have, in my opinion, a pretty deep ball, and he understood when to take chances. And if a chance was not there, he's okay in punting the football. And that's why you don't see a lot of turnovers from Mac Jones, because he understands I don't have to force the issue. And that showcases the above-the-shoulder game. He's a very, very smart, cerebral quarterback. That arm talent is something that we haven't seen in quite some time, because I have yet to see Mac Jones miss a deep ball. And I'm not saying he's never missed a deep ball before, ever, but you just don't see that often. How many times when you watch college football, young quarterbacks, experienced quarterbacks, they miss open pass catches down the football field? If their wide receivers get a step on you, you might as well book it as a guarantee that they're going to complete that pass. He has a unique arm talent, and the way he stands in the pocket and the way he navigates through his progressions, he reminds me a lot of Carson Palmer. And remember, Carson Palmer was a top draft pick. I'm not saying that Mac Jones will be a top draft pick, but you better believe this season he put a stamp of his first-round grade based on how well he's played.
So perhaps Alabama will have 3 first-rounders on offense with Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, and Najee Harris. Of course, Devontae Smith will be the first off the board. I mean, but then who knows? Maybe someone will take a running back, but I would probably tend to say that it'd be Devontae Smith coming off the board.
What about Alex Leatherwood?
And him as well. That's a great point. Yeah. That's a great point. That's a great point. Great. I'm glad you called that out, Chip, because this offense has been helped because of that offensive line. Barrett, I know you want to jump in. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy when you think about just those 4 offensive guys, and then you throw in Dylan Moses and Patrick Surtain and all the guys on defense. I mean, it goes to show you, yeah, it's the X's and O's, but the Jimmies and the Joes on both sides of the ball for Alabama. I mean, it's filthy. Chip said it, joking about how you just roll another 4 or 5-star guy out there, but I mean, it was on full display today.
When you take a look at the Heisman Trophy, we saw there on that list, Kyle Trask is the favorite right now. He entered the season as a long shot, much like Joe Burrow did last season and then won the Heisman. Mac Jones is the second favorite. Then way down the board is Devontae Smith at plus 5,000. B-Mac, I'll start with you. I'm curious, at this point right now, who would you be putting your money on to win the Heisman Trophy?
Mac Jones. Mac Jones. And when you watch both players play, the quarterbacks, Kyle Trask and Mac Jones, Kyle may blow you away with his numbers because he's been putting up video game-like numbers. But the film, watching Mac Jones, he will blow you away with the eye test. And looking at what he's doing against top 25 opponents, he's averaging around over 230 yards, completing 74% of his passes. 74% of his passes, and he's been playing some of his best football against the best competition. Threw for over 400 yards against A&M. I think 4 touchdowns. Threw for over 400 yards against UGA. I think he had 4 touchdowns in that ball game as well. And today he threw for what? Over 300 yards and 5 touchdowns against another ranked opponent on a national stage. This is a guy that loves when the lights are at its brightest, and he shines and he shows out in these moments. And I think he will continue to do so. He has an opportunity to do the same thing against LSU. Granted, LSU, they're not the team that we thought they would be, but this is another opportunity for him to continue to improve on his Heisman resume. Number-wise, video game number-wise, is Kyle Trask. But if you watch the tape and you watch how accurate and precise Mac Jones has been, I think he has to win the Heisman based on what we've seen so far this season. But there's a good opportunity that these two players could face off against each other in Atlanta, and that could be the final say-all for who wins the Heisman and who won't win the Heisman.
B-Mac, that's exactly where I'm going. I was just about to say they might as well wheel the Heisman Trophy to the sideline in Atlanta, because that is also going to be on the line in that game. And you're asking who I'd put my money on. Well, who would you put your money on? Is it going to be Mac Jones against this Florida defense that we have seen can be had and can be picked apart? Or is it going to be Kyle Trask against an Alabama defense that we've spent a good portion of our time here today talking about the improvements that they have made across the season? Heisman voters, a lot of them are college football media. College football media are procrastinators. They are just going to wait until the SEC championship game. Whoever wins that one gets the first place. Whoever loses ends up getting the second place spot on their ballot. And then they'll do a non-quarterback for their third place vote just to be cute. But really, we know that whoever has a better performance in Atlanta in the SEC championship between Mac Jones and Kyle Trask, they end up getting the stiff arm trophy virtually, of course, when it's finally awarded later in the year.
Chip, we're not supposed to reveal our Heisman voting secrets, man. Like, that's our methodology. We got to keep that secret. No, look, I think Kyle Trask is going to win it. The value obviously is with Mac Jones because Kyle Trask just doesn't have it. But those odds, one thing jumped out to me more than anything else. And while I agree, the Heisman Trophy winner will probably come from the SEC championship game. If you can get Trevor Lawrence at plus 1,000, that is not a bad bet, as Chip would like to say on the Cover 3 podcast. It's a little sprinkle, put a little money line sprinkle on Trevor Lawrence at plus 1,000. That's the value. Now, again, I think Kyle Trask is going to win it. I think Mac Jones probably has a little bit more better value. But if we're talking about pure value, I'm going to put some money on Trevor Lawrence.
Alabama hasn't had a Heisman winner in 5 years. It's been a long time. 2015 when Derrick Henry won it.
5 years.
Hard time.
Is that a long time, right?
Speaking of running backs, Najee Harris also in the conversation for Heisman Trophy. He's not up there on the list that we had, but he's right there. 17 rushing touchdowns, leads the nation. This guy continues to impress week in and week out. And B-Mac, I know that linebackers and defensive backs, they're going to have a tough time containing this guy when he gets to the league.
He's a big man that runs like a little man. He's a big man that catches like a wide receiver. He's a do-it-all running back, and those type of players, GMs and scouts, they love on the next level. He reminds me a lot of Steven Jackson, first rounder from years ago from Oregon State. They got drafted by the St. Louis Rams at that time. They had a heck of a professional career. The body size, the structure, how he goes about his business in between the tackles. He has a nasty edge when needs be, but he also is a smart runner, and he has soft hands. If you can catch the football out of the backfield, people, they love that. NFL teams love that. Coaches love that. And I can tell you this much. There are so many guys you can highlight on Alabama's offense. We just spent 40 minutes talking about Mac Jones and then another 20 minutes talking about Devontae Smith. And we threw Alex Leatherwood name in there. And we're just getting to Najee Harris. I mean, this is a balanced offense. They have so many pro-like players on that team. It's amazing. But he just goes about his business. And because of his size and how he runs the football, you see he does some of his best work in the second half. And I can tell you this much, being in the secondary, if you're telling me I got to go tackle a guy who's 6'2", 6'3", 230 for 4 quarters, I don't think I would actually sign up for that job without help. And even if you have help, good luck, because usually that big guy's going to win more battles than he will lose. And that's Najee Harris. I have nothing to say bad about Najee Harris. Yeah, I can't think of anything negative to say about Najee Harris. He's a great player.
Yeah, he really is, B-Mac. And the thing about him that really stands out to me, and you saw it on display in the Iron Bowl, is that he never gets hit hard. Even when a defender has an angle on him, he finds a way to not get hit hard. And usually he's the one doing the hitting. And I think that's the other thing that really impresses me. And we've seen it throughout the course of his career, how many different things he has at his disposal, how many weapons he has in his arsenal. He can run you over. We've seen him do that. He can stiff arm you. We've seen him do that. He can hurdle you. We've seen him do that, and he can run away from you as well. So he's just an all-around back, and like B-Mac said, a lot of the NFL guys are going to look at him and say, well, he can do it. He can do it all. We can get really creative with how we use him in the offense. But it just, if you step back and watch him over the last 3-4 years, he never gets hit hard. And I think that will, we always talk about running backs, not having a lot of tread on their tires, especially from Alabama when they get to the NFL. But he's not going over a lot of rocky roads. He's not going over the dirt roads. He's been driving on that black asphalt the whole time.
Yeah, Najee Harris has been identified from a very early on point in his high school career as somebody that was going to be physically imposing. And he has arrived at the Alabama NFL player-making development center there in Tuscaloosa. And he has only continued to improve on those physical assets and only improve the technical side of the game, working on his craft, working on his balance, his vision, working on making sure that he doesn't leave his body open to take those kind of hard hits. He's a player that would be starting on Sunday right now. He just happens to be playing on Saturday for the best team in the country.
And oh, by the way, Nick Saban wasn't on the sideline. They still put up 42 points. Look, you guys know that I'm an Ohio State fan. You know I have respect for Clemson. You know I have respect for Texas A&M. You know I have respect for Notre Dame. But who is stopping Alabama? Who is going to stop this team, B-Mac?
Well, when you look at their conference, right, the SEC, I don't see a team that can stop them. And granted, Florida may have the firepower on the offensive end, but this year their defense has been the Achilles heel for their team. And you can exploit their defense, especially in the secondary where guys just tackle bad from time to time and don't locate the football. So when you look at the competition throughout college football, the team that's going to have the best chance in beating Alabama is a team that has pro players at important positions. And that team is Clemson. With Trevor Lawrence, championship experience, championship pedigree, with him in the lineup for Clemson, that ball club can be deadly. And we saw how deadly they were today playing against Pitt, a team they were supposed to beat handily with ease. They put up 31 points in the first quarter. How do you have enough offensive possessions to score 31 points in the first quarter? The first thing I thought about, how is that possible? Did Pitt not hit the ball one time on the offensive end? But it will take a team like that have Sunday players. What I mean when I say that, players that will for sure play on Sunday. And they have one of the best to do it at the most important position in Trevor Lawrence. Outside of Clemson, I mean, you can throw Notre Dame's name in there. Florida, we don't know what will happen with Ohio State. But outside of Clemson, I'm not too confident in those teams. I think I would have to put most of my confidence in Clemson because of Trevor Lawrence.
I'm going to say Clemson as well, but I'm going to say it's because of the wide receiver position. It's something that I've been tracking as a trend over the last couple of years. And when it comes to really being able to survive in these high stakes college football playoff games, having like LSU's wide receiver room from a year ago just ends up being something that you can't stop. When Mike Williams is just catching 50-50 balls over Alabama defenders, then Deshaun Watson is leading Clemson to its first national championship of the playoff era. I just think that being able to overwhelm defenses, especially if you can go at tempo in the modern era, close games, fourth quarters. I mean, we've seen it happen time and time again. That's going to end up being something that's a difference maker. And I think that Clemson is seeing just now a player like E.J. Williams, freshman, starting to show out. A player like a Joe, who's just an absolute freak physically. He steps out there. He's starting to feel comfortable playing against Power 5 opponents. Clemson had a huge hit when it lost Justin Ross. And of course, T. Higgins left early for the NFL draft. But the youth in that room, combined with the way that Cornell Powell has stepped up, has given Clemson just an elite just the same level of an elite offensive wide receiver room as they've ever had during their national championship years. And I think that's why Clemson is the best pick to potentially throw Alabama off its game in the playoff.
Well, you guys picked Clemson, and I agree. I think Clemson is probably that team as well. But I'll throw some love to the Florida Gators, because if you're going to beat Alabama, you're going to have to play Alabama-style football. And I think that of the teams that are not named Clemson, that it is Florida, because they've got a mismatch with Kyle Pitts. Nobody can guard him. You saw when he was out, Trevon Grimes, Kadarius Toney, those guys became more comfortable with Kyle Trask. They've got a quarterback who doesn't make mistakes. They've got a running game led by Dameon Pierce that is sneaky good. And wait a minute, the defense actually looks halfway decent again. So what path does that remind you of? It kind of reminds you of the path Alabama took this year. So, yeah, I agree with everything that BMAC and Chip said. It is Clemson, but I do think that Florida in the SEC championship game, assume that the two play there, which we all assume will be the case, that Florida can give them a game, because the only way you're beating Alabama is if you play Alabama football, and Florida can do that.
You all said the wrong answer.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.